take some of your questions, and I want to start, Carrie, maybe with you, and the first one's from Greg, and just wanted to know if your central database was based on the IEC SIM standard.
No, actually, due to the project deadlines, we had looked at the SIM standards, but we had not been able to put that in place in time to meet the deadlines when we started the project in the first phase. But it is something that, as a company, we're definitely looking at. And as we implement new tools and as we put new fields into this Asset Health Center, we are taking that into consideration, absolutely.
Frank wanted to know which data historian was used.
We have Pi Data Historian for our SCADA data,
Yeah.
and that's what we decided to use. Is we use Pi for any of that real-time online data, and then we have this ISIS system that sends data to a data warehouse, and we're linking into that for the inspection-type data, the offline stuff.
Siri asks, did you have any challenges getting control center type data? And she wants to know if NERC SIP issues were important or challenging.
We did have to go through and talk to the owners of all the Pi data and et cetera. And one thing that we made very clear is that we're not in that NERC SIP type of anything that we're doing is not related to that. So we, for example, our connection in the internet is separate from those other facilities. And then also any of the data that we get, it's not being sent through as an alarming type or anything that's a critical alarming. All of our data is more of an analysis or trending right now. We may eventually get there where it's used in another fashion, but right now, since we're just building the algorithms and we're just getting everything under control and understanding how these work, we don't want to send too many nuisance or false alarms while we're working through the process. So right now, it's separate between those.
I'll start with you on this next question, Carrie, but perhaps Gary or Chris will want to jump in as well. He asks, what are the top 3 challenges faced by executives, so executive sponsors? And I don't know whether that's technical or organizational or people issues, but I'd be
I can help with one of them. This is Carrie. I mean, one of the big challenges we've had is just the process. I mean, a lot of people have done things certain ways, and whenever you introduce change and a new way to do things, that's always a challenge. So I think that's the one thing is, and there's so many different groups that are involved in this project and so many different teams that just getting everyone on the same page, and we're there. We have the executive support. It's just making sure that we get the message out to everyone in the company and being that change agent to make sure that everybody's following the same procedures and the same process and all the things as we build this tool from a process and from a technology standpoint.
Terrific. Gary or Chris, anything to add there?
This is Gary. I think just flipping the question around a little bit, though, I think it also provides an opportunity for executives to drive investment at the transmission level in the case of AEP with the added benefit of having reduced O&M expense because of more efficient maintenance. And that's a win-win situation in terms of the utility finance drivers. Spending capital, which, as far as I understand, AEP will be able to put into their regulated rate of return at the transmission level and then reduce the O&M expenses, which flow directly to the bottom line in a negative manner, is truly beneficial. Certainly the process issues that Carrie mentioned need to be addressed, and those can be challenging.
Hey, one other thing, Gary is right, spot on. Another piece of that is a lot of times we don't have the leverage or the information needed to say why we need to replace something, and this tool really helps out with another factor to add into that discussion. So if we need more capital, we can go ask for it and say, here's why, whereas now it's like, well, it's really old, and then they say, well, it's really old last year. Why do you need to replace it this year? So it's a different discussion. It's a different starting point for that discussion.
Here's a question that we get more and more often about almost every topic, and it's about, can you say anything about delivering this kind of a solution via the cloud? And if so, public cloud, private cloud, hybrid cloud, does that have any impact on whether and how you would do this?
There's a question around whether or not this can be delivered over the cloud.
Or could it be, or yeah.
So yeah, the difference is it would allow people to scale into smaller deployments of the technology. The issue is always whether or not people are comfortable with having their data stored off-site. And there's a previous question around NERC SIP. although we can ensure confidentiality of critical data, that's always a big question in people's minds. Everything today is presented to the user through the internet with a zero footprint install. So the possibility of delivering this over the cloud is actually it's a small step for us.
Got it.
Yes.
So
Jesse, this is Gary. I think the answer to that is more a financial one than a technical one, and concern about where the data of the assets resides. And I think that business model is different for an investor-owned utility versus a public power utility. And it's a function of, we can deploy either way, but if you make an investment in having the infrastructure at the utility, that has one different business model than a cloud-based solution. Cloud-based solutions are terrific for a pilot to validate performance and the benefits, but I think for an enterprise-level solution, we see more investor-owned utilities looking at putting the infrastructure in place.
Brian wants to know, and this is for anyone who wants to jump in, maybe Gary would be the first place to start. Has AEP shown reduced O&M expenses, or is it still too early in the project? Have you documented that yet?
It's too early right now. We're still looking at as far as trying to extend some of our maintenance, time-based maintenance schedule, but we haven't officially done that yet because we're so early with the algorithms and things that we're still working on that trust factor, so we need to have a few wins with that over the next few months so that we can start extending that out.
Right. All right.
Jesse, the answer to that, though, we have a lot of experience doing transformer testing and inspection and maintenance. And so what we have done with the Asset Health Center is we have put that on a business intelligence platform, which allows us to automate it and to leverage that subject matter expertise on an ongoing basis. Doing a static analysis or a snapshot analysis, what we've done in the past, we've been able to demonstrate savings and by early detection of some problems and have documented that with our customers. We're now taking that process and we're automating it, and we're taking the subject matter expertise and we're embedding it in a software solution, an enterprise-level software solution. So we expect to be able to extrapolate the benefits and expand the benefits from what we've been able to do previously.
Gary, I know this varies. This is kind of an expansion of that. Can you say anything in a general way about typical payback times, how quickly you're likely to get your investment back, or is there a range?
We haven't refined that yet. Examples, if you can avoid one catastrophic failure a year on a piece of transmission equipment, that could be potentially worth, $1 million, $2 million in avoided expense and costs. And then you get into the O&M expense, and if you can shave, 5% or 10% of your O&M expense, I think that's being conservative. For a major utility, that's a huge amount of money. And so we're trying to validate those percentages where you have a systematic process and it's ongoing and sustained versus the one-time snapshots. And we haven't captured enough data yet to really drive that, to validate the value proposition. I know AEP prepared a business case, and Carrie may want to comment on that, but those are some of the key drivers we see, and we're working with customers to do that validation.
Thank you. I think we'd better wrap it up here. Our email addresses, if you want to reach out in person. All that sort of remains for me to do is to say thank you. Thank you to Gary Ratcliffe of ABB, to Chris LeMay of Ventix, to Carrie Schneider from AEP, and thanks to all of you who are listening, and hope to see you here again very soon.